I want to talk a little bit today about the idea of the second pillar is the knowing where you belong, right? That group of people, that it can be a family or a group of friends or a tribe or a club or a church community or whoever that group is, where you feel like you can be completely authentically you. There you also have a place where others are investing in you and you are investing in them. And each one of the people in that group have that increasing value because of the value of everybody else together. Same as we might invest our money in financial investment and cause that money to grow. That's also how our own value grows when we're investing in ourselves and investing in others. And so we need to be belonging in a group. It is fundamental to the human experience. We need to feel significant and cared for, and that we also see others as being significant and that we care for others. We want to know that people like us for us, right? If I go and I am part of a group and I'm pretending to be somebody other than who I really am, I am always going to wonder, did these people like me or do they like the person I'm pretending to be? If I was my real self, would they like me? So by going into these different social situations and these settings and saying, I'm going to be me, fully me, authentically me, my awesome me, then when people like you, you know that it's because they like you and not some image that you've created. And so that's when we really start to feel that sense of belonging, is when we have that sense that we can be our authentic selves with others. When we belong, we improve our sense of well-being. We become physically healthier. We have better brain function when we feel like we belong. We are psychologically better. We can grow personally. So these are some of the reasons why we need to have that belonging in our lives. When we don't feel like we belong, when there's that absence of belonging, this often leads to a sense of loneliness. And loneliness has the opposite effect on our well-being. It's going to lead to poor physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. If we feel lonely, if we're not connected, we're not going to be well. Now, there's different types of belonging. There's possessional belonging. That's the literal understanding of what it means to belong. And it's this idea of ownership. And now you can have possessional belongings, but people are not possessions. So when we're talking about belonging to other people and belonging in group, these are some of these other areas of belonging that we're really talking about. So it's categorical belonging. Belonging to a category or a grouping. This is where you might find other people that belong to the same group as you and you have common ground. You have something in common with them. That's that category belonging. We also have positional. So it's who are you in relation to someone else? How do you belong to that person? That position within a group. So let's take the family group for an example. The positional belonging, for example, I could say I'm a mother, so my children, they say they're my children, and so that tells you where they are in position or relation to me. Interpersonal belonging is just our social relationships, and so that is when this might be the people that you meet on the street. It could be the people that you're in a club with. It can be some other sense of a tribe. Having those social relationships is that interpersonal belonging. So feeling like this is my friend. It could also be something like this. This is my boss. It could be this is somebody that I go to school with. This is somebody I go to church with. Those are those interpersonal social relationships that we have. And then there's this existential kind of belonging. And this is that belonging that's related to your existence. So this is a spiritual belonging. So belonging to God. Some people might say, I'm a child of God. Some people might say, I'm a child of the universe, or I'm connected to nature. And these are different types of existential belonging. And it's not about groups of people, but how do you belong as part of the human race to the universe or within the universe. And so that need to be part of a social group really is part of being human. We need to be part of something. We need to have that feeling of acceptance. We need to have a sense of security, where we have that genuine sense of caring with other people. We want to feel like we have something in common with other people. And so belonging, and I want to be really clear on this, belonging is not fitting in. There's a big difference. When you are trying to fit in a group, means you are conforming. You are changing who you are according to what you perceive you would need to be to fit with that group. And that's not belonging. And sometimes needing to fit in is about survival. If we are in a group that we don't have a choice about being in, for example, a work environment, and we can't always choose our coworkers. And so in that setting, you may need to conform in order to fit, but that is not going to satisfy your sense of belonging. It's not going to satisfy your need for belonging. And so remembering that any time that you are conforming and trying to fit in, that is not a place where you truly belong. And if you have places in your life where you don't truly belong, it will happen in your life, and that's okay. But you need to make sure that you're making effort to find those places where you do belong. So if your whole world is wrapped up around work and you don't feel like you fit in at work, you are going to be lonely. You are going to have less sense of well-being and less sense of health. It's going to physically impact you. And that's okay if you need to be conforming in a certain environment for a certain period of time for a certain reason. But remembering that that is not who you really are, and you need to find those places where you are free to really be your authentic self. When you're free to be your authentic self, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier in the loving yourself, is when you're free to be your authentic self, it's a lot easier to love your authentic self. If you feel like your authentic self needs to be hidden all the time, how do you love what needs to be hidden? And so this is where it's really important here, that just understanding that difference between belonging and fitting in. Now, authentic belonging, when we really authentically feel like we belong as our true awesome selves, we're going to feel this experience of acceptance, and we are going to feel this love and connection. It's going to help us have more meaning in our life and more purpose. We're going to have a sense of inclusion, kinship, and so much more. And this is where belonging is vital to our well-being. And it is vital to reinforce the things that we are learning to love about ourselves. When we have that sense of belonging with others, it reinforces that love. So others are then investing in us, and we're also investing in them. And again, that's where the value continues to grow. We also want to look at what is our connection to God. And so we have our 1 Corinthians 12, verses 12 to 27, where it talks about the body. And it uses this beautiful analogy of how we are all like different parts of the body. And each part of the body has a different purpose. And we don't have to have all the same purpose. But together, we work together to create this interconnectedness. So if you are a hand, stop trying to be a foot, right? Be the best hand that you can be. If you are a tongue, be a tongue. If you are a knee, be the best knee that you can be. Stop trying to be the other parts. Be the part that you are, right? We talked earlier about how the rose has no other purpose except being the rose. If you're a rose, be a rose. You know, we have all these different parts of the body that all work in unison. And if we are not playing our part, it's going to have a negative impact on the other parts as well. So recognizing that difference between people and your role and your purpose is going to be different, and we all have a part to play. And that's where we have calling, and we have things that we need to start creating meaning in our lives with. And that's going to lead us into what we're going to talk about tomorrow when we talk more about finding the meaning and purpose in our lives, is recognizing that your meaning and your purpose does not need to match your neighbor's meaning and purpose. You are unique. You are wonderful. We've talked about all these things that make you you. We've talked about learning to love who you are and how to belong with others. And so this is where tomorrow we're going to be talking more about how do you find that unique meaning and purpose in your own life that is uniquely you. And that all together, when we put those three things together, those three pillars, the knowing who you are, knowing where you belong, and finding your meaning and purpose, that is going to create your foundation. And so the last part that I want to talk about today is just about some strategies on how to create more meaningful connections with people. And so a meaningful connection is one that consists of support. It's positive, it's honest, there's compassion, and there's respect. So when you are having a social interaction with somebody, and maybe they're part of your tribe, maybe they're part of your family, part of your group, or maybe there's somebody outside of that, and we can still form meaningful connections with each and every person that comes across our path if we take the time and if we put the effort in. And when we put the effort into creating these meaningful connections, we're also creating opportunities to find new people that also can be part of our group and part of our tribe. Those people that we can feel like we are ourselves with, and that we can allow other people the space that they can be themselves with. And so we want to create space for personal connections, over bonding, over shared experiences. How do you connect with people? And you can increase your opportunities for those connections by being intentionally available. So being available on purpose. When other people initiate a conversation with us, we want to make sure that we're in a place where we can be present and ready to connect. So when you leave your house in the morning and you say to yourself, I'm going to be present and ready today, we will start to be aware of those times when people are making small talk, because really what they're doing is they're looking for an opportunity to connect. Someone can say to you something as small as, oh, that's great weather we're having today, or oh, it's stormy out today. Something as small as that sometimes is people looking for opportunities to connect. So when you are present and you're ready and you're being intentional about being available, then you are in a position where you can start making real connections with people. And the way that we're going to make those connections is asking questions, opening doors for people to share. So when somebody has initiated a conversation with us, we are ready, we are available, we are present, and we're asking them questions. Opening the doors, letting them share. We're going to listen to them. Being a good listener, being an active listener. Allowing people the space to be heard. I know that I have times in my life where I'm not really giving people space to be heard, because deep down, what I need is I need an opportunity to be heard. And I need people in my life that are going to take the time to hear me. But I also want to be aware of what I'm doing and when I'm doing that. Because if I have an opportunity where someone else needs to be heard, but I'm feeling like I need to be heard, in the end, neither one of us is going to be heard. So making sure that you are aware of when is an appropriate place for you to be heard and when is an appropriate place for others to be heard. Having some self-awareness can be helpful there. And so I want to close out today with the lesson part are those who have a strong sense of love and belonging have the courage to be imperfect. That's a Brene Brown quote. So I'm going to say that again. Those who have a strong sense of love and belonging have the courage to be imperfect. And so that's really what we've been talking about today, is learning to love yourself, learning that it's okay to not be perfect all the time. And we need that sense of love and belonging in our lives in order to be able to be imperfect. When we know that people love us and accept us for who we are, that includes our imperfections. And I go back to what I said yesterday, is knowing your limitations is important, because when we have limits, when we have imperfections, when we have areas where we don't shine as bright, it's okay, because those are opportunities for other people to shine. Those are opportunities for your friends and your family and your coworkers and whoever else might be in your life to step in and allow their light to shine in those areas, because maybe what you're not good at is something that someone else is, right? In the same sense that as a hand, if I'm a hand, I'm not very good for walking, right? And so if I'm a hand and I say I don't walk very well, that's okay, because that's the opportunity for the foot to shine. That's the opportunity for the foot to do what the foot does best. So recognizing that your imperfections are okay, your limitations are okay, because those are opportunities for those other people in our group to shine. So that's kind of that piece that I really wanted to close off with. And so this part of the homework for today is looking at, where do you belong? What are those connections in your life? And what are the quality of those connections? Where do you feel the most at home? Where's home for you? Home for you is not necessarily the place where you live, but that place where you feel like you are accepted and you can be completely yourself. So I want you to stop here and think as well about, how are you showing others that you value the connections that you have with them? And this is the last kind of takeaway for today, is as a human being, the need for connecting is hardwired into the core of who you are. And so the better your connections, the more you're going to be aware of who you are and start becoming the more awesome version of yourself. C.S. Lewis said, friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, "What? You too? I thought I was the only one." So that's the closing piece for today, is go out and start creating some meaningful connections with people. Start listening to people. Start hearing how their stories are like your stories, and how you can connect with them and create that sense of belonging with other people.